Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel, and this is your tip of the week. I have a few little fabric storage suggestions. If you have a lot of fat quarters, a lot, and I do, you can store them in these little plastic shoe boxes like this, and you have them all just stacked upright so you can scan through them. Or if you don't have a lot of fat quarters, but you still want it to look nice and not falling off your shelf, you can make these little fat quarter cubes. It's a really easy sewing project. And what I did for this one, I made the red basket to hold the red ones, yellow basket, blue, green, and so forth. And it looks really decorative, especially for those of you that are sharing a room and you don't want your sewing corner to look really bad. Another way to store fabric, your regular fabric you're buying by the yard, is I use these cardboard sheets. They're 8.5 by 11 inches, and I take the cardboard and I wrap my fabric around it, and then I use a rubber band to hold it. Now I used to use clips, but the clips kept popping off. The downside to the rubber bands is the rubber bands eventually will break over time. So, but that's easy to replace. I just keep plenty of rubber bands around. And when I put them on the shelf, I stack them up like this. Not like this, because it's hard to pull out from the bottom. When they're stacked like this, you just pull it off the shelf and then push it back in, just like you were in a library. I love to make stuffed animals. They're a lot of fun. I also like to make fabric dolls. So this particular animal, the pattern was on the back of a Pellon polyfill stuffing bag. So this is polyfill. It's that little fluffy stuff you insert into the stuffed animals. On the small bag of your polyfill is often a beginner's pattern for either a doll or a stuffed animal of some type. So look for those little free patterns. Well, it's not really free, but it feels free because you didn't have to go buy a pattern separately. But when you're doing the dolls, make sure you use the polyfill stuffing that's made for dolls. It's stiff, it's a little coarse, and it's much easier. It keeps the doll stiff so it doesn't flop around. And if you're interested in more Pellon projects, go to pellonprojects.com and you will find a lot of free patterns there. Plus, on that website, they explain in detail what each of their stuffing products, how they're used, what they're used for. They talk about the different cotton battings and fusible webbing, all types of products. So it's a really cool website to go to, and that's pellonprojects.com. Now here is a cat animal that is a stuffed toy design. And I recently came out with this, and if you're interested in doing this particular project, the link will be below your YouTube screen. One of the problems with this particular one is that I used just the polyfill stuffing in it, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't stand up on its own. You have to lean it against something, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that's okay with you. But if you want it to 't up on your own, there's a suggestion I have for you. This is a Pellon product called Poly Pellets, and they're little white pellets, and they add weight to your projects. So a suggestion is you could fill maybe an inch of the bottom of your stuffed animal and then put the rest with your polyfill stuffing in it. I made a Christmas gnome doll using this, and it was great so that it could stand up in the middle of a table if you wanted it to. Now, the poly pellets, I bought mine off of Amazon.com. I didn't see them in my local stores, but they might be. Another suggestion, though, for putting something in the bottom of a stuffed animal is to put a large piece of styrofoam on the inside to make the bottom flat, and then fill it in with your polyfill stuffing on the rest of the way up. Now these are pin cushions, and most of my pin cushions are just small and I just put the polyfill stuffing in it. But sometimes if you want to add weight to it, so you could fill the bottom part of it or the entire pin cushion, you can fill it with crushed walnut shells. And you can find it in a pet store. I guess they use these for pet snakes. I don't have a pet snake, but it's just a small bag. It's not a whole lot. So I bought mine, a larger bag, off of Amazon.com, and you put them in your pin cushions. Now, the selling feature that they tell you for the reason for putting it in your pin cushions is apparently it will help keep the tips of your needles and pins sharp. Now, whether it really does that, I don't know, but apparently every time you stick a needle inside, it sharpens the edge. I'm not sure if that is true or not, but there again, it adds weight, it's very functional, and again, it's called crushed walnut shells. Now this is a little pin cushion that I use to do cross stitch on. Now cross stitch is a really easy type of stitching for everyone. It's very simple. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And I find it very, very relaxing. So if you're interested in learning how to do cross stitch, I only do really small projects. I don't do great big pictures. It takes too long. I like quick little projects. So there'll be a list of cross stitch tips, and start with lesson 1. It'll show you the basic stitch and the supplies you need. So I make little things like this. This is a little welcoming pillow that I made for our patriotic holidays, and I just stick it up by my front door so people they know they're welcome to come in. Also, other little projects I make are little wall hangings. I like to combine my cross stitch with sewing. I usually include it in some type of sewing project. I've put them into little coin purses, all kinds of little things. So again, if you're interested in learning cross stitch, there'll be links below your YouTube screen in the description section. If you like to work with stretch knits, you've probably had problems occasionally with the raw edges curling in. So you're trying to bring two pieces of fabric together and stitch a seam, and it's all curly, and it's really hard to get a nice even seam with the edges curling in. So here's a product called Best Press. It's a starch, or you can use any starch. Spray it with the starch or the Best Press, and here's a piece that I sprayed. Now, the three edges here are very flat for stretch knit, but this edge didn't curl, and the reason why is it's the selvage edge. So that's that finished off edge on all your fabrics. It won't straighten out that edge, but it will straighten out all of the other edges. Very useful product. Here are some pot holders that I've done in the past that have applique designs on them. And you're wondering, well, what's applique? It's pieces of fabric that are glued on to other fabrics. They aren't always glued on, but in these samples, they are glued on using a special product I'll show you in a minute. So you can design your own piece of fabric here, or you can cut out shapes that are already printed on your fabric, like this apple was already printed on there. I didn't design it. And you can combine several layers of fabric into one design. So the product that I recommend you use is called Light Easy Steam 2. It's a two-sided fusible webbing product. And on the back are very detailed instructions on how to use it. So you have sheets like this. They're a little bigger than this, but it has blue grid lines on it. This is the side that you draw on, and then on the back is plain paper. And in between the two pieces of paper, is a thin layer of glue. So this is what's used. So if you're interested in getting started on doing some really simple machine applique projects, there will be a link listed below your YouTube screen in the description section. This little character here is called Sunbonnet Sue. This is also using machine applique to get this design on here. Now there's a lot of pieces here. I don't recommend this for a beginner doing first time applique. I would I would stay with the other examples I showed you. But the reason why I'm showing you this is I'm a big fan of Sunbonnet Sue. And this is a book that was designed with all these different Sunbonnet Sue activities. She's doing all kinds of things in it. So in here are the patterns way back in here. Look at this. Now, if you get this book, it's called, again, The Ultimate Sunbonnet Sue Collection. And you can get it on Amazon in the book section of Amazon. So I recommend when you get the book, you don't cut on these pages. Put it in a photocopier, make a copy, and then cut up and use the pattern pieces. Now I've used this for many little Sunbonnet Sue projects. I just love this book. It's an excellent book. And they'll even show you how to put quilts together in this book. So I highly recommend it. Here are a couple of my rotary cutters. This is a 45 millimeter, and this is what, 18 millimeter. And I use this one a lot for cutting paper and cardboard. Not always, but I use it, or I'll use it on really small pieces of fabric because I have a hard time with my hand. One of my hands is handicapped and it doesn't close, so using scissors is kind of a nightmare for me. But the reason why I'm showing you these is that I keep my old blades. I keep them in the little plastic containers that they come in, and I mark old on it. So when I want to cut paper or cardboard, I pull one of the old ones out and use it. You don't want to use a new blade on paper or cardboard because they're still really good for for cutting those paper products. Often I get comments in the comment section of my videos about Band-Aids on my hands. Oh, you cut yourself again with the rotary cutter. I have rarely cut myself with a rotary cutter in all my years of using one. And the times I did cut myself, I wasn't even using it. The blade wasn't closed all the way and I was reaching across the table for something and my hand skimmed across the rotary cutter, and that's how I cut myself. But whenever you see a Band-Aid on my finger, it's because of straight pins. I must poke myself 3 or 4 times a day. Sometimes I'm in the middle of filming a video and suddenly blood is all over the table because I've poked myself with a pin. So for those of you who sew a lot and you poke yourself with pins, make sure you keep Band-Aids handy. I have a lot of rotary cutter rulers, all sizes. I love them and I use every one of them. But to help keep them organized, I use this little wooden stand down here on the bottom. Now, I think I got mine at Joann Fabrics and Crafts. I'm pretty sure that's where they sell them. If not, you can get them on Amazon.com and probably even Etsy.com and many other sewing supply websites. It's really nice. I used to keep them stacked on top of each other on a shelf, and I had such a terrible time trying to grab one. So by putting it on this rack has been a lifesaver. If you haven't started this notebook, I highly recommend you do it. And I call it My Stitching Notes. And it's in my Sewing Tip of the Week, number 10. And what I do is I keep all of my notes. If I went and took a sewing class, I put the notes in there. If I learned a new technique, I put it inside here. If I learned how to use a new presser foot, I put the notes inside how I used it. It is very, very helpful. Those of you that have started it have told me you have no regrets because you're so happy. All your information is in one location instead of thrown in a drawer or under a stack of fabric and you wondered what you did with the notes on that class you took. I also keep it for my cross stitch. I do little projects every now and then, so when I put it into a tutorial, write down the notes and put them inside of a book, and you always have it really handy for yourself. Well, I hope these little tips were helpful to you. Now, go below your YouTube screen to get all of the links to all of these different things that I've talked about. If you want to learn how to make stuffed animals or dolls, you want to learn how to do machine applique, there will be information below your YouTube screen. I'll also have links to my other sewing tips. I also have beginner sewing machine tips. So I've got lots of useful information. I've got over 1,000 tutorials that I have done. So there's something in there for you. Also, when you're going down below your YouTube screen, did you know if you clicked on that little round circle with my face in it, it will take you directly to my home page where you can see all of my tutorials listed. Now don't forget to follow me on Instagram and make sure you go and check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.